cut-off culture, especially in our generation, when it's like, yeah man, I don't like the way they said that, so yeah, block and delete, like, peace. But also at the same time, like, is that what we should be doing, or like, should we be trying to make things work?
What do you think about that? What do you think about
that? You don't put me on the hot seat, man. For me, I think that, like, yeah, so I believe in 2 stages. I believe in single and married. I don't believe anything else, like, in between.
Okay.
Which isn't the most popular decisions, like,
it's life, man.
In our culture, but I think it depends on, like, something that Toby said earlier, which is how well that person listens. So it's like, if you know this person's making an effort and this person's growing with you, is willing to grow with you and is gradually changing, and you see progression, then why would you cut them off? However, if you've not seen a willingness to listen or change or to grow, and they're happy doing what you don't like or something that you don't believe in, then I think that kind of cutting off or creating some form of distance or taking steps back may be a better approach to it.
Yeah, I mean, you've just stated, so you've literally stated different levels of doing things. So cutting off is dead cut off. I think that can only occur if there's actually been an offence.
Yeah.
And not an offence as in someone has done something wrong to you, so you just delete them. Because some offences you do need to discuss. Let there be an area of forgiveness, and then you distance yourself. That's it. But there are some offences where you actually do need to cut people off. But sometimes it's just a distance. Like, imagine if I'm just not feeling your flavour, then I just let you know politely. But this is another problem. You've got to date understanding that tomorrow I might tell you that we're mates again. And that has to be acceptable to you. And
people love to fly. People love to fly into the future. But look, keep your feet on the floor. Stay here.
But my pride.
Let's stay where we are.
Why is your pride? Too many people are dating prematurely, which makes the person that has to then make the decision for themselves, which is the best decision for themselves, to step back, uncomfortable. Because if I feel like I can't tell you that I don't want this to go further, that's how stupid situations go further for no reason, with people that you should not continue to be with. And then you're there, you've done this thing now, you're embarrassed because people have seen you in public together multiple times.
What, holding hands in that?
Making plans.
Holding hands in this place is even a ridiculous thing to do.
I want to hold hands.
Hallelujah.
Not all the time.
You get all clammy and sweaty.
My friend,
it's just not. It's not.
My hands bare high up as well. Your hands bare low, like.
But yeah, definitely. People have to stay ready to be told that you're lovely. It's not for me, and then the person that has been told that needs to know that they've come into this knowing that they are whole. Because if you come in knowing that you're not whole, that's how when someone takes themselves out of it, you feel as though something has been taken from you. But God forbid that would be the case. You should understand that when you're dating someone, you are whole, therefore you don't lose anything by not being with them anymore.
Yeah, what if they drop the "I love you, you're my cinnamon apple"?
What's going on? The person you're trying to drop out?
Yeah.
How did they get to love when you were on like?
I mean,
that was deep. I wasn't even here.
But but genuinely, how did you get? Is it because I was doing something wrong? Because sometimes the person can be misleading, or was it that you weren't protecting your heart?
No, they were flying. They weren't.
So if
their feet were not on.
If you're not guarding your heart, and I'm doing all the right things, and I'm ensuring that you are aware of how it goes, not only can I not help you, you don't even have the right to ask for my help. Because you know how people be like, but what did I do? That's me helping you, and I can't help you. I'm so sorry.
I agree, because you have to. People have, and I've learned this the hard way, but I'm glad I've learned it now. So going forward, it's not going to happen again. I have to manage my own expectations. Like I have to know for myself my own right. Manage your expectations, but also I feel like it comes in tandem with being very self-aware. Because a lot of people, first of all, they don't know themselves well enough. First of all, they don't know what they need. So then they're always constantly like sucking, like I'm like, I can feel when I feel that pull. I'm like, I'm out, because that for me, like that's a whole other subject, but like the whole energy thing, I'm very big on energies and stuff. So if I feel like you're just pulling on me, I need to go, because like I just can't do that. But I feel like people, they don't manage their expectations well enough, and also, again, like you said, like some people are just a bit premature. Like it will make me look at you funny. So again, same situation. Oh, bless him. I really don't mean to be mean, you know. But my guy was really talking about within like very very soon. I think this is a freshie thing though as well. Like
please,
people,
because you're gonna trigger me.
people that are like from like freshly, people that are freshly not British, basically. Let me to put it nicely.
What's wrong with us?
Right? Like very quickly he was like, yeah, like you know, basically I love you and I can see myself, and I'm like.
Hallelujah.
That to me is not flattering. I'm like,
What
but
is
why?
love?
Literally, I'm like, but why? Because you don't know. I don't know you. You don't know me like that. So to me, that puts me off. Because I'm like, bro, like your powers of what's
Deduction.
the word of deduction, your reasoning is all off. Then because if you can love me from in that short, don't get me wrong, I'm lovable obviously.
Hallelujah.
So I get it, like you can love a lot about me, but the intrinsic parts of me you don't even know. I could be some horrible person.
The African love time scale is different to the
It's
British
different,
love
right?
time scale, okay? You can't judge the time scale the same
Man's
way.
trying to buy cloth tomorrow in Peru.
Listen, I
when
said
the
that
price is
kente is
cheap.
not for
Time scale
me,
is different.
Jared. But
Oh
no,
my
like
God.
I just feel like, but again, I feel like again, maybe we can talk about that. Culturally, things are different because there are people. Perhaps if we were back in Accra or wherever, like maybe that would be acceptable, and it'll be like, yeah, I love you. Okay, cool, let's get married, and then boom, and then because actually you can never really know. Like obviously, the purpose of dating someone is to get to know them,
But you can
never really
At all.
like how much can you know someone?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Cool. Liga, how? Yeah, you mentioned guarding your heart. Like, so what is that? Like, how do you guard your own heart, and how would you guard someone else's?
Oh, see, that's good because it's both ways. That's perfect. So Shakira said that guarding your heart would involve managing your expectations, but then most importantly, like I said before, knowing that you are whole will be the main way to guard your heart, because you are going into. There's nothing that you can fully know completely, even when we prophesy in part. So when you're going into a relationship, you can end up being heartbroken or upset. However, when you go in whole and you are guarding your heart and protecting yourself and managing your expectations, these things will hurt you, but they won't break you. So even things will go bad. That's just the reality. Sorry, things can go bad. Things can possibly go bad, but when you've guarded your heart, you will always be able to manage it. It won't be the end of the world. In terms of guarding the other person's heart, most importantly, like I said before, letting your expectations be known to someone so they understand the kind of person you are. So they understand that if you don't say please and thank you to people, this happens to be a deal breaker for me, unfortunately. So that it doesn't come down the line that you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be with you anymore because you didn't do this. And that's like 3 months down the line and they're like, what do you mean? I never knew. So ensuring that people understand your expectations and guarding someone else's heart would be sharing, I think, some experiences. If there are things that cause you to act a certain way that other people wouldn't expect. So some people have been through situations where they behave a kind of way or they're like protective or whatever because of themselves, not the other person. So you might be standoffish because of things that you've been through. Then that's hurting the other person and they don't understand why. So it might be being vulnerable, basically, sharing certain things about yourself in order for the other person to understand that you are not the reason why this is happening. Can you be patient with me? So I think guarding someone else would be sharing some of your flaws to an extent so that you can grow organically.
Reminding them that you're just human.
Yeah. Like, what
this
was
is
that
not going to always go well. I'm not always going to be nice to you.
What would that
So
look like?
simple.
Kind of like for you, Toby, man. How would you like guard someone else's heart?
Guard someone else's heart.
Yeah.
This is a big lesson for me, actually. Guarding other people's hearts looks like, for me now, in hindsight, looks like trying as hard as possible to be intentional, and also, again, like Liga said earlier, I think, don't get into a situation unless you're confident about how well you know yourself, because how well you know yourself is going to define and ultimately influence how you interact with other people. You can't be making decisions without really understanding like the way you're feeling or what you're going through. And if you're ever not in a place, or you ever don't feel like you're 100% certain that you're going to make a decision and stick with it, I think the biggest lesson for me is don't do it. Don't make the decision.
Like, it's interesting you mentioned that. Like, just looking at knowing who we are, not only in Crest but in the society we live in, like, culture's a big word that's thrown around. Do you feel me? Like we're all British to a certain extent. Do you feel me? But we're all black. We're all from different countries. We all have different upbringings. So how does culture define who you are in a relationship or when dating, kind of thing? So for me personally, like, I'm Nigerian, so it's just like, like, well, what is love? Because let's be honest, half these uncles and aunties that got married, they don't really like each other too much. Let's just be very real. Like, aunties here working and uncles back in Africa doing business.
You have to wrap it up.
Let's be real with it. So for me, it was just
you're
like
attacking people's lives.
But so for me, it's just like basically understanding love, but then understanding like, okay, well, what are my shortcomings? Like, what kind of do I need to learn and mature in, and what can I not allow my culture like to affect? Like, for example, like putting someone first in love. Like, in my culture, is not really seen as much sometimes. Like, the African man is king, so you can't really tell him much, because
I think that's why it's so key to know yourself, understand like your culture, understand where you come from, and then for me, when you come, like, if you're a Christian, the benefit of being a Christian is when you come into Christ, you start to weigh up my culture versus the scripture, my culture versus like what Jesus said, like, and then you weigh, and the things that aren't balancing, or the things that are like they're clashing, like the ones that are clashing, is the Jesus ain't wrong, like your culture is probably the one that needs to.
Hallelujah.
So I think culture is great, and we shouldn't lose our cultures completely, because our cultures are to be celebrated, and then like we have to cherish them, but you have to know where to draw the line to say, okay, this part of my culture, this little part maybe needs to not be there, and like kingdom culture needs to basically preside over that space, plug and a half, plug. But so I think that's what it is. You gotta balance the culture with Christ, essentially.
So like, Liga, what would you say, like, in terms of like, we're all African to certain degrees, right? So what would you say like is a positive thing and a negative thing in terms of African culture that you can be like, rah, this is something I want in my relationship, this is something I do not want at all in the relationship?
Submission is something that's very positive, that I would take, not in the way that a lot of African cultures display it per se.
I can't lie, there's a lot of women that will just switch off when you say that word.
That's not the personal problem.
Wow.
We all have one Bible, and the Bible, when read accurately and for your own understanding, will make it clear that submission is a beautiful thing.
Honestly.
Like, when people join Twitter, they then conclude that they understand things in its entirety because they've read a thread. Reading the Bible is a completely different thing. So
how many people just got added off?
Honestly,
honestly, people's personal understanding of things, no one should ever feel triggered unless they have read the Bible and come to the conclusion that submission is unhealthy. If you have not understood it for yourself personally, then you shouldn't feel triggered. Just go and research properly so you can understand how much it's a beautiful thing.
Homework.
So I'd say submission is something that I'm so happy that I'm of African culture, because I have seen it, and now I can adapt it, because I've started from a point where I see submission as the be-all and end-all of marriage, and then with Christ in it, I see the beauty of it and how I can make it work in my household. And submission equals perfection, because once you are doing what you're doing and you're being loved by the other person, it's complete. The thing that I will not take, the thing I dislike, is the reverence of the mother in some cultures, because then it's competition, and then a lot of the times it becomes your mum or my sanity, and that's something that I will not compromise on. So can you
please explain that, because
that's a lot
that might have gone over people's heads.
If your mum is moving mad, essentially, but I think mothers have a certain intuition which sometimes can give them insight into something that you may not see.
Hallelujah.
I think that's why the Bible tells us to honour our parents.
On the other hand,
let's forget.
We've all watched Nollywood.
Let's forget the ones that are reasonable. Yeah. Let's forget the ones that are reasonable.
Yeah.
The ones that want to have status. That's where the issue comes in, because if I'm a reasonable person and I love God, you will always be revered and respected in my household. It's just the way in which you feel that you should be respected is not the way in which respect needs to be displayed. If you don't understand that, then I will happily remove you from certain equations as long as my partner is happy. If they weren't happy, then we would have never been together anyway.
Yeah.
This is also something that's caused me to be... This is the main thing that caused me to be very open to dating outside of my race, because it widened the pool. Because that issue of mum has definitely...
That thing's destroyed marriages.
It's destroyed marriages. It's destroyed homes. It's destroyed the way in which you can raise your child. Because now you and you're not, because you don't want to argue, because even you've been raised in a household where you understand that your mum would tell you when you go to your in-laws' house, respect your mum. So when she's coming to tell you how to raise your child, you're just there nodding. And you're doing what they're telling you to do for your child, as if she's the one that carried them for 9 months. Wow. So for me, I don't have that whole element. It can't be a competition. As long as we're living under the Bible, if your mum doesn't understand that,
you gotta check your family, because that family thing is a huge thing in marriage.
It's a massive thing. But how can you? I don't understand the whole aspect. Sorry, of you entering into a marriage where your husband didn't back you prior to. That for me, the maths equation isn't adding up.
I think sometimes you just don't get to see that, maybe because the situation doesn't arise where that thing shows itself. Shakira disagrees.
I disagree, because I feel like if the mum is like that, you would have been seen.
100%.
Like you
I hear that.
I feel like people choose. And like I've actually got a friend personally, like someone who's actually like my brethren, who actually part of this reason was why she called off the wedding, because she didn't feel like he was backing her in many situations. And if you're seeing that from before you get married, then there's no chance. Like if you're doing that when we're not married,
you can't respect me now. That's respect thing, and you're not respecting me.
And I feel like, you know, again, this is for me, like I feel like, you know, because I'm half and half. Like I'm Nigerian and Jamaican, and there are obviously different things are done slightly differently. There's still, I feel like the same things still happen, but it just looks a little bit different in the Jamaican side per se. But yeah, to be honest with you, communication is a thing for me, because I'm gonna say, like, some people wouldn't say, they wouldn't. I'm gonna tell you respectfully, I don't like the way that person in your family made me feel, or I didn't feel like you supported me here, and you know, you need to do that. Obviously we can talk it out. Maybe he might disagree, or he might be like, oh, I didn't see it, or whatever. But if it's something that keeps on arising, and then he's oblivious, or either he's oblivious to it or he sees it but still chooses to ignore it, then that's a problem. Then this is not going to work, because actually, like you're saying, Liga, I want to respect you and I want to respect my elders, because that's what I've been taught to do. But I'm not a doormat. I'm not to be walked all over. And I think that's what you were saying, Toby, is where, you know, biblically and traditionally, where things don't line up, your culture cannot trump the Bible, because I'm a Christian before I'm anything else. I'm a Christian before I'm a woman. I'm a Christian before I'm black. I'm a Christian before I'm Jamaican, Nigerian, whatever. And I think sometimes for this, and actually also understanding that though as well, is that you know, God made us all our different cultures and our different whatever, so we shouldn't completely discard it, but there's got to be that balance of actually what trumps what is first. Actually, Christ-likeness is first.
You might know biblical principles, but like you're praying the basic prayers like, oh God, like when so and so walks past, like, just let me like be blind for a second so I don't see her. Or like, oh God, like I hope I don't see her today, because like man, that's feeling some kind of way, yeah. Or like, like God, like what am I meant to do with all these thoughts? Like play right through in your head, like we'll never delete.